The child welfare system. What are we doing when we're working with children and families in this system? As a judge and in this system involving the court, I see the role of advocates and the judge as one in making sure that we're looking at the constitutional rights of both parents and children. A parent has a constitutional right for that life, liberty, and freedom to be a parent. A child has constitutional rights for that life, liberty, and freedom from harm. That parent's rights really end where that child's rights begin. And as a judge, I see myself in this system working to ensure that that's what we're doing. When I think through the processes in which I'm assuring we're upholding these utmost of important constitutional rights, that we're making sure the child's rights are just as important as the parents, I think through the ways in which we're able to most effectively do this. For me, I understand that we have to ensure that we are listening to children as much as we're listening to parents. And for me, listening to believe is of utmost importance. I know it gives great pause to a lot of advocates to ask that we just listen and believe what we're being told. We're trained, and it's our role to figure out whether or not people are being honest, whether they're being truthful, and whether or not we should even believe the things that they're telling us. That's oftentimes the point of the court system and the adversarial roles that we often take, is having a finder of fact determine who is right and who is wrong, which things we should believe over others. But when we're talking about children, and we're talking about a system created specifically to protect these children, we have to consider what is the worst thing that can happen if we actually listen to children and believe them. Well, if we listen to a child who says they were hurt and we believe them, we investigate the who, the when, and the why. And we try and hold somebody accountable. If we have a child who says that they were mistreated, we try and understand what that child needs, and we try and help that child heal. If we have a child who says that they're misunderstood, perhaps we will listen to what that child has to say. Perhaps we will empower that child to speak up. And maybe even we will help that child to understand that we as advocates and a system respect that they are the experts of their own life. And to me, that is the point of listening to believe. And these outcomes don't seem so horrible. I think about a young lady, a child that I've had in my court, who unfortunately had a long history of trauma. She even had a situation where people didn't believe what she was saying when she made outcries about how people in her family had hurt her. She wasn't believed initially. It led to a lot of trauma on top of the hurt that she already experienced. We worked through so much of that. We worked through a situation where she was able to be back home where she wanted to be with her mother and her siblings, who she loved very much, who in her heart she had forgiven for some of the things that had happened to her. And I visited with this child, as often the judges do in these cases, and we had a conversation about how she was doing. I noticed she didn't seem very happy like she normally does. I know she and I had built trust. I know we've been visiting for years, which is the unfortunate truth. But we had a relationship, and this is one child that I always took to heart when we had our conversations, because I knew how important every conversation with her seemed to be. So when I asked if she was comfortable in talking about what was bothering her, she said she would be willing to do that. And she said she was just upset with something she overheard. And she said, I know I'm not supposed to overhear grown-ups talk all the time, Judge, but I do. I'm in this house with my mom, and it's a small house. My caseworker came to visit with my mom, and I listened to what they were saying. Obviously, I got a little concerned. I often want to make sure advocates and the other adults in the case aren't putting too much pressure on a child, talking about details of a case. But the reality of the close quarters were what they were. And she told me about what she heard. She said, I heard my caseworker tell my mom that she wasn't a good mom. I heard my caseworker tell my mom that if she really loved me and if she was really a good mom, she would have protected me. She would have believed me the first time I told her something happened. And she wouldn't have to always ask for help just to meet my needs. And she said, Judge, it made me really sad to hear my very own caseworker talking to my mother this way. She said, Judge, I know my mom loves me, and I've forgiven my mom for things that happened in the past. I know my mom struggles taking care of me and my brothers, and I know we're not easy. We're teenagers now. She said, but there's no reason that caseworker should have said those things to my mom. It really hurts me because I know my mom loves me so much. And honestly, I did feel bad to have this child have overheard some conversation like that, to know an advocate is talking to a parent in this way. And aside from my own feelings, I asked this child, what can I do? I said, I'm so sorry this happened. And I am ready and willing to take any action, to have any conversation that you would like me to have, so that everybody understands that you and your mom, your whole family deserve respect. And that kind of conversation was not okay with me. I said, what would you like me to do? And she said, Judge, I'm not sure if I want you to do anything, because I believe that if you tell everybody at a hearing or you bring it up with the caseworker, they're not going to believe me. It's going to be my word against the caseworker's word. And I'm just a kid. They're not going to believe what I said, I heard, or they're going to try and turn it into something else. So I don't know that there's really anything to do. And in that moment, I took a pause and I told her, I believe you. I believe you and I'm your judge. I believe you and I have a lot that I can do in this case. I'll only do what you want me to do, but I just want you to know, if nobody else believes you, I do. And in that moment, tears started rolling down her eyes. She began to cry. And I could tell from the tears, and I could tell from the look in her eyes, and the fact that she was also smiling, that it was tears of relief more than of being upset. It was her understanding that she had someone like the judge on her side who listened to her and believed her. She said, Judge, I don't think I need you to do anything. I'm glad that you know, and you're my judge. I know you'll make good decisions in my case. And if you believe what I told you about what that caseworker said about my mom, I know that you'll believe me when I tell you my mom really loves me a lot, and she's trying really hard. She's doing the best she can, and I would really like to stay with her. And I did believe her, and I do believe her. And I know that her life isn't perfect, and I know that the situation at home isn't perfect. I also know her mom isn't perfect, but I do believe her when she says her mom loves her very much. And that was all that we needed to do. I listened, I believed, and I think that I gave relief to a child who had been through so much trauma and didn't often receive that relief whenever she speaks up. And so I submit that it's not the worst if we listen to believe, especially as advocates working in a system where we're supposed to protect children. We're supposed to uplift their voice and assure that we're doing what's best for them, when the reality is that especially the children who have come from hard places and experienced hard things are experts on their own life. I know that the things I do in my court, I know the expectations I have on my advocates are to follow the just path, to do the right thing. We even work so hard to be innovative in our approaches, to make sure that we are equitable, that everyone gets a fair shot. And in these cases, our families have more than just one day in court. We're checking in often, making sure they have supports and services, that we're doing all of the things that we believe to be the right thing to do so that we could administer justice, justice that we feel is the right thing to do. We work hard. I don't know any advocates in my court who come to this work with the spirit of wanting anything bad for the children and families they serve. We're all passionate people with really good intentions, wanting to make sure we see the best, not only for the children, but for the parents. We are a child welfare system, though, and we are a court system. At the heart of it all is justice. And when we think about what justice is, it is more than all of those intentions. It's more than all the collaborations we make and the innovations we bring. It is more than just that. The children and the family, they're real. They have a right to justice, and the justice isn't just what we tell them it is what they believe it to be. Their perception of whether or not they're rightfully getting their days in court is as important as whether or not I'm doing the right things. Having their voice heard, having children able to speak up and speak out and to know that they're being believed, that we're listening, and that we're working to support their needs for which they're the experts on is the perceived justice that must be hand in hand with the actual practices that we're doing to administer justice. We not alone can do what we believe justice to be. We must as well have the perception of justice by the very people that we are serving. Thank you.